Hi everyone, welcome to the develoPPP Ventures Info session. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that by the end of this session you'd have an answer to all your questions regarding the grant, the application process, and anything else that you need to know. My name is Sheila Otieno. I'm a program manager from SeedStars, and on the call we have our experts from DG. We have Julia, Niklas, and Lars, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Julia, please.
Yes, hello, my name is Julia Stausberg. I'm heading the Develop Ventures program here at DG Impulse. So yes, I have a focus on Sub-Saharan Africa in our portfolio, and I've been with DG for the last 9 years now. And yes, I'll hand over to Niklas.
Thank you very much, Julia. Hi, everybody. My name is Niklas Fischer. I'm part of the Develop Ventures team as well, part of the project management team. So you're probably direct contact person in terms of everything after application. I have a background in finance, have worked in the startup and fintech space. And yeah, I'm happy to be part of this session today and hopefully able to answer all your questions. Lars.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Niklas. My name is Lars. Alongside Niklas and Julia, I'm part of the Develop Ventures team. And I have a background in development economics and worked across the startup and venture capital space in Germany. And I'm very much looking forward to answering your questions today.
Thank you so much, Lars. So Julia, I will hand it over to you to take us through the develoPPP Ventures program and objectives of the program itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks again once more for showing interest in our program. So Develop Ventures was conceived a few years ago with a pilot phase, and then we probably rolled out the program last year in Kenya, and have now implemented 3 idea competitions in which startups are asked to send us their ideas, their proposals, and now at the moment we are running here the 4th round of applications. The idea is to support scalable, innovative startups that have moved beyond the ideation phase and are already in the as an post revenue, still of course in an early stage, but have shown some traction, and we want to support these startups to scale their high impact business models. So we are always focusing on startups that can show how they're contributing to the SDGs, to social and ecological progress in their environments. The focus countries, as you know, are Kenya and Tanzania. And until now we have supported 25 startups, currently a pipeline of 10 more. And we are planning to now support an additional at least 10 within 5 each for Kenya and Tanzania. And the application deadline, you probably know that as well, is the 30th of December. So we're looking forward to receiving your applications and of course your questions later on.
Thank you so much, Julia. Let me take you through. First, before we get into the questions, we'd like to take you like a brief overview of the new application portal. So I'll be sharing my screen so you can see that. Okay. All right. A short minute. Okay, so once you register, there's a link that we have shared in all our application posts and all the email reach outs that we have done. You click on that link, it will take you to the portal where you're going to create your account. So you first create your account, then you'll be able to see this dashboard that I'm showing you here. We have several programs open, develoPPP Classic, and then you scroll down to develoPPP Ventures 2022 Cohort 2 by DG Impulse. So this is what you're going to click, create a new proposal. Note that all these are different types of programs. So Classic is meant for bigger companies and Ventures is now for the startups. This is the target. So once you click this, it will take you to this first page where we again go over the requirements for you to be able to qualify for the grant. The grant is open 2 times a year from 15th May to 30th June, and then this time from 15th November to 31st December. And general information is you must submit this in English. Try to answer every question to enable to facilitate assessment of your proposal. And then you go over this. Once you're satisfied that your company actually meets the requirements, you go to point 2, which is information about the company. So here, this is similar to the application form that we had previously with the previous cohorts, but it's a lot better because you can save your progress and you can also get directions in case there's any important information that you have missed. The best part about this portal again is that once you fill in information when registering for the portal, it autofills. So you start you start filling information about your company and everything you had filled in earlier autofill. So name of the company is there, then your salutation first, name of your point of contact and your function as well. So this is the person that will be reaching out to with all information about the application and anything else that we may need. So you fill this in, which is your contact information and everything else regarding your sector as well. If you cannot find it within this list, you select other, and you can also only select one sector at a time. So if you select other, click this button, and then it goes to the other side. You fill in which sector exactly your company is in, then the service and product that you offer. So everything, including historical information, you can fill all this here. And then additionally, we have a help text. If you do not understand, or at least to give further direction regarding what you can fill in. So if all these are required, so if you do not have this information, just enter 0 and you'll be able to proceed with your application. So you can see that there's a lot of information that you have to fill in. And once you're done, you proceed to the next part of the application, which is the business model. And you'll get a prompt if you haven't completed everything. So you can save your application and proceed to the next part of the application. This at least enables you to be able to fill this in progressively, so you do not miss anything out. So you can go to your business model, fill in the description of your target market and the market of your potential of your product. So track record, everything, you fill that in. And then also save or proceed to the next part, which is the business model, and save as you proceed. So you can fill this in progressively. Fill in one part, save, proceed to the next part. Fill in all the easy parts first before you decide to go to the more, at least complicated parts. So you also need to attach other information. You'll attach your financial statements as well, and you'll get this under information about the company. So I skipped that. You'll get that there. So you fill all this in, and once you're done filling in your business model, that is your service, product, value proposition, you go to proposed investment and financing, and then relevant and developmental impact as well. You fill all that in. Then there is an option to also add additional documents. So if you want to add your business model, perhaps, your shareholder structure, company registration, a pitch deck. So there's an option to add everything else that you think would be beneficial to your application. And after this, you can now overview the whole application. And once you're done, you submit it. That is once you have filled in everything. You can see I'm really getting errors, and this is because I haven't filled in any information in this application. So once you filled this in, it will direct you to any information that you missed. And once you're done with that, you can save and submit your application. So if you save your application to continue filing it in later, you'll be able to see all this. Let me just show you where you'll be able to access your application once you have saved it to continue. Okay, so save and close. Let me save and close the proposal form. Yeah, so once you've been able to save and close your application, you do not need to come back and create a new proposal. What you'll do is scroll down to the bottom of the page and you'll be able to see that there is a draft application here. So what is the proposal status? What does the proposal status mean? So you draft, this means that the application has not yet been submitted. Once you submit, this will change to submitted. And if it is declined, that is, you'll see that as declined. If there's a contract, the proposal will be followed up. You'll also be able to see that. So if you filled in your application midway, you can come access it right at the bottom of the portal and you click on edit proposal, then continue with the application that you had already started. So that is a brief summary of the whole portal. I hope it is easy for all of you to be able to apply and continue. Yeah. So we get into the questions part of the session, the most important part. We had several questions that you submitted over the course of the previous weeks. I will start with the first one, which is what are the application requirements and deadlines? I would leave this so Niklas, please answer.
Okay, now you're putting us on the spot. All right. So the application requirements and deadlines. In terms of deadline, you're able to apply until the 31st of December this year. Until then, the application platform will be open. And in terms of application requirements, so we're especially looking for companies which are already able to show us some terms of traction. So we do need to see some revenue. We're not able to fund companies at a stage or at an idea stage. That's just not the program aim, what we're looking for. Other application requirements are financial statements. So we do not need audited financial statements at this point, but we do need some sort of financial statement and a model, which would be great for us to just see how deep you have dug into your own business modeling. I would probably also hand over to Lars and Julia to also take on that question if I forgot anything.
Yeah, I think just to add on also what Sheila was just saying for the application portal. So the mandatory document that you will need to upload, despite, of course, filling the application form, is the financial statements. And as Niklas said, even if they're not audited yet, but ideally, of course, they should have been set up by an accountant. So this is a mandatory field. If you cannot provide these, we cannot accept the application. All the other additional documents Sheila was talking about, pitch deck and so forth, if you have something ready, feel free to upload it, but this is not mandatory at this point in time. Yes, and I think besides that, Niklas has mentioned many requirements. The most, let's say, the most important one that many questions were also asked about is the matching fund requirement. So as we explained earlier, we are targeting a certain group of startups at a stage where they have already been able to convince investors or are at least very close to convincing other investors of investing into their business. And they need to have at least matching funds that are at the same level of what we are planning to invest. So we are planning to invest 100,000 euro. So the companies should have matching funds available of also 100,000 euro. These can be in, these have to be, at least half of it has to be equity or quasi-equity, something like a safe note or convertible note. So that would be at least 50,000. In that form, equity-like. The remainder could also be another grant or a loan or so. Yeah, but altogether it has to be 100,000 euro. And we do accept, of course, here, I mean, you're at a very early stage if you're interested in this program. So it's often family and friends, angel investors, different forms of impact investors who are at this stage. We understand that some companies that we will select might not yet have signed those matching fund contracts, but we have to get a pretty good feeling that these funds are in advanced discussions, or that you're in advanced discussions with these investors, and we will always only pay out our money once the investors have paid out their funds. So we are sometimes able to close the contract with the startups before the investors have closed their contract. If we are very confident that this is imminent, the close of the matching funds, but we will always only pay out if these matching funds are available. So I think, that's obviously the kind of hardest criteria for our program. But we are trying to use our grant money here as, of course, also a way to not nudge investors to be interested in these young companies. And I think, that's one of the main criteria.
Thank you so much, Julia. I like that we've dived into the, most interesting question of the day. Everybody is asking about it. And since we're talking about matching funds, the other question was, what is your definition of fresh equity funding? So funding that I received earlier on in the year, perhaps last year, would that still count? Or do I have to actually get funds come in at that point?
Lars, do you want to say? Do you want to?
Sure, you can jump in. So what we consider as fresh equity is we consider any capital raised within like the last half a year. However, we're fully aware that, of course, at the stage of applying, a lot of the startups don't have the matching funds yet. I would say it's the majority of the cases we have. So what is quite important is that we get the fresh equity at the stage of signing the contract or shortly afterwards. So it is quite important that you've already in talks with potential investors and that you have a certain pipeline in terms of your investment in mind, but it's not a strict requirement that you have the matching funds at the time of applying already.
Yes, and maybe I can add here with regard to what is considered or what type of money do we accept here. So when we talk about the fresh equity, we cannot accept what's called sweat equity. So the money that you might have put in as a founder by not receiving a salary, we cannot use this. It has to be actual funds flowing. Yes, it can be, as I said earlier, from partly could come from other grants, for example. But the main thing is, this money will really enter your account. It could also, it cannot be from revenue, from profits. First of all, we do usually invest in companies that are not yet profitable at the point when we invest. But even if you were making small profits, this is not the type of co-financing we're looking for. Maybe just to understand the main reason we want to see the matching funds is that we want to see other investors having some skin in the game as well, believing in the business model and also wanting to see it grow and support the growth. Therefore it's we are expecting this actual money coming in, which we will later prove by showing also bank statements and contracts with investors.
Perhaps to shortly add to that, what is probably also very interesting and important to understand is that us as a provider of grants through our develop program, so through the BMZ, we have a different perspective on those, or a different view on those businesses we're looking at. So having a equity investor on board does also, or should be beneficial to the business itself. And so this is not only about having us as a grant provider, but also an equity investor that is able to probably support you down the line. So that's perhaps the rationale behind it.
Perhaps just to add on to that, we have also experienced that we can have the effect of a crowd-in, which means that we commit to our develop funds under the condition that the company gets additional matching funds. And we've seen it in multiple cases in the past that this worked actually quite well. So we're also willing to talk to your investors that you have in the pipeline, talk about our commitment, and that could also accelerate your matching funds.
Thank you so much, Lars. Continuing that conversation, so if you're only able to raise like a quarter of the 100,000 euros, can you ask for a grant of a similar amount? So you only ask for 25,000 if you're able to raise just 25,000, since the wording is a maximum of 100,000 euros for the grant.
Yes, actually the answer here is no. We are looking, that's the ticket size we are planning to invest, around 100,000 euro. I mean, it could be 90,000 sometimes, but it is usually, this is what we are planning to invest, and it's the size of companies we're looking for, companies who can absorb this amount, or rather 200,000, as they will at least need the matching funds as well. What is connected to this question is another question I have here on my list, which is, could it be in installments? So maybe a company is able to raise 50,000 at this point, and we can then match this 50,000, and maybe next year they're raising, or shortly after, they're raising an additional 50,000. Yes, there is such a possibility, that we only match the amount which is committed at the time of, for example, signing the agreement with us. Again, it should be very clear where the remaining 50,000 comes from. Only then would we select the company in the first place. But maybe an investor says, okay, I give you 50,000 this year and I give you 50,000, or at the end of the year, and that is a possibility, and we could then just match the amount that is available. In any case, we would always only provide an installment of up to 80,000 euro at the beginning of the investment. Then we will follow up the investment for about a year, and have a second installment of 20,000 euro at the end of this year, if the companies fulfill their reporting requirements and other provide us with the financial statement of the year of the investment. So that's kind of the way the money is being invested.
Just to stress in that regard, I mean, we do have a certain leeway, but there's also certain limits. So if the matching funds trickle in 20 installments, of course, that's something we couldn't do. We've also had that in the past, that request.
Okay, all right then. Thank you. I think you've been able to answer that question, that would not be possible to just ask, for a little portion of the 100,000 euros in grant funding. And Niklas, when you're talking about the requirements for applying for develoPPP ventures, you said that you don't find new ideas, like that was another question that we were getting, that why do you need proof of concept to be able to fund a business? Can a company at idea stage be funded? So why this?
So this just comes from our point of view and the mandate we have by the German ministry who provide the funds. So we are trying to achieve also a socioeconomic change and an impact in the countries and with the investments we do. So if there is a high potential and the proof of concept is there, we feel like the 100,000 can make a difference in terms of setting your business up for more funding, equity funding, as well as giving you the opportunity to also perhaps try things out and get to a stage where you probably break even in the next 2 or 3 years. But the ideas come stage is just something that we're not able to support through the funding because of the mandate we have and the aim we have with the program itself.
But maybe to add to this, of course, some questions evolved around this question. Yeah, why do you have, to have a certain traction already? I mean, I can fully understand that you as a very young founder might wonder, why can't I get the money right now? This is when I need it most. Yes, and this is fully understood. Of course, unfortunately, we have a limited mandate to exactly what we were describing now. I would encourage everybody, of course, to look to other programs that address a much earlier stage, that are particularly addressed to entrepreneurs at the very beginning, like the Tony Elumelu Foundation, like the Siemens Foundation. There are other programs you would find on VC for Africa that really lists comprehensively what is there, and GIZ as well, especially in Kenya, targets this segment of very early stage ideation stage startups, and of course, yes, you're absolutely right, there should be more money in this segment as well, but unfortunately we are not the ones who can provide it at this point.
Thank you, Julia. I think we answered Josh's question as well, that you must have proof of concept for you to be able to qualify for this grant. And don't be discouraged, because there's also other grants that do target ideation stage. So the next question, there's one question we got there's so many questions we got with regards to sectors. Are there particular industries that are preferred, or any sector preferences? Can microfinance education institutions also qualify for this grant? Do housing startups qualify for this grant? Medical imaging, do they qualify? So everyone is wondering if there is like a sector that you prefer to give the grant to, or sector agnostic.
Okay.
Shall I just start?
Lars.
Okay. So the very easy and simple answer is no. We're agnostic when it comes to the specific sector. However, of course, given the criteria we apply, we have a certain tendency towards certain sectors, which shouldn't discourage you from applying from any sector you are operating in. So our current portfolio very briefly covers everything from green tech, like renewable energy, circular economy, over e-mobility, to anything related to marketplaces. We have a lot of marketplaces that are related to food, to agriculture, to health. And we have a certain number of companies that focus on fintech solutions, anything related to digital lending, insurance, or digital wallets. But we also support sectors like housing or educational tech. So as you can see, it's a very broad range of startups and sectors we support. I think the common denominator, what is quite important, is that most of the startups we support have a digital component or are fully digital. I think that is quite important.
Yes, and I think to add to this, so we do look for innovation startups or startups providing a solution. It must not be, or it might not be new on the globe or even in Africa, but it should definitely be new in your market. This of course also limits, the potential startups. So say a very classical agricultural business, maybe where you're planning to process cashew nuts or so, this is usually not our target group, because I'm not saying this is not super relevant to the market and very important, but with our requirement for scalability, ideally scaling it at least in a country, maybe even in the region, this is usually just not possible with some of the more traditional brick and mortar classical business models.
Okay, so do you only fund tech startups? Will the answer be yes or no? Or at least are they tech leaning, all of them?
We don't. We do have some startups that do something else, which is innovative, but not completely, it's not completely tech. Usually startups are all very kind of like, leaning towards enabling their business model with technology in some way or the other, even if that sometimes just refers to their own processes. So we have some, I think Lars was mentioning sustainable housing. This is, it's a innovative housing product, which is not very, it's not a smart home, it's just normal houses, for most companies, given our requirement for scalability, there's a certain leaning towards technological solutions.
Thank you, Julia. I think we can all see that you need to be innovative. Your company needs to be innovative and easily scalable for you to be able to qualify for this grant. Not strictly tech, but tech leaning. Yeah. So we go back to the application criteria. I think we answered this already. Must I have audited financial statements? You said no, right? But you must have financial statements before you're able to apply. Okay. So, okay, all right. Nicholas, would you like to answer that
In
one?
terms of the audited financial statements, I think you already
Yes.
answered it. So yeah, we don't need audited financial statements, but so the financial statements don't have to be audited at that stage, but should be there in some form, not just pen and paper.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. I think I need to add to this. M-Pesa statements would not exactly qualify as financial statements. That is for our Kenyan applicants. I know we mostly use paybill for our businesses, so at least have some form of financial statements. That is the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flows. So M-Pesa statements or a printout of your personal account statement, those would not exactly qualify as financial statements. We got a lot of those last year. So just mentioning this at this point. So for this company that says they just launched, they don't have financial statements, but they've done their taxes, would it be a strict requirement? The answer would be yes. At least have the 3 basic financial statements. Doesn't have to be audited. Yeah. Okay. So
yes.
the next. Okay. Thank you. So the next question would be, I think we've covered everything regarding the selection criteria. Yeah, there is a very hard question. Why is it that every application I make on develoPPP, I get rejected? So
this is a very general question right now, and not where I mean, we would need to know who asked that question, so we could get a more specific answer. But in terms of, or what I can recommend is that everybody really, you should look into the details and our preferences for application. The requirements are quite clear, and we have seen that some of the companies were not able to meet those requirements in terms of not providing financial statements. And we received over 500 applications in the last call, which is quite a lot, and we're really happy with the outcome and want to encourage everybody to apply to our program because there are a lot of good ideas. It's just that sometimes we also get applications which are just like bullet points where we don't feel like the person really or we also get applications where we sometimes think to ourselves that this application is not specifically for us, but was probably also used for some other equity investors who, what I already mentioned, have a different point of view and other judgment criteria. So,
but I think
sure,
to add to this, it's also, I mean, don't take it as a comment on your business model if you're not being selected. This is a very competitive program. We have a high number of applications. You might have a very good business model, and yet you get rejected twice or 3 times. If you feel, also your company is making some progress and you are, progressively add more fitting the criteria better, you are able to apply again. We encourage that. Of course, I think one company was asking if they've already moved on to the next stage, if they are able to, and actually pitched in front of our jury, if they're then able to apply again. I think that depends, if the feedback you received at the time was clear that the content also of your business model doesn't fit our program, then maybe not. But besides that, I think mostly, being rejected just means that it wasn't the right fit for our program at the time, and you weren't probably at the stage yet. But try again, and hopefully, of course, you'll be more successful in this round.
Thank you, Julia. So to add on to that, I'd say is for most of the applications that we receive, the first thing is to like negative screening of those that don't attach all documents, or those applications that are not properly filled in. So I think the first step to at least ensuring your application is considered is attach all the right documentation, attach your financial statements, the actual financial statements, that is, fill in the application properly. I think this new portal makes it a lot easier because you can get that, reminder to attach the required documents or to fill in the key information that is needed. So the first step is usually just fill in all the information that is required, also attach all the necessary documentation. So with that, at least there's a 50% chance of being considered. And another thing that I tell people that reach out for feedback also is to how you illustrate your company on paper is something else too. It's something very important, because you find that somebody has a very great idea, they can tell you about it, and you understand that this is a very innovative business, this business is very scalable, but then you take a look at the application and it wasn't done to the standards that would actually let anybody know that this business is really good. It's an innovative business concept. It's very find a way to illustrate your business on paper that somebody else who's just taking a look at that application would be able to see and understand how your business actually works. So yes, there's that. Then the other question is, how many projects are funded in every cycle?
Julia, do you want to take that question?
I think Niklas briefly, or we mentioned it already. At the moment, we are funding at least five projects in each country per cohort. So now we have 2 countries, Kenya and Tanzania. So that's 10 projects in Kenya and Tanzania with every application round. This is the target that we are planning to finance given the funds we have available. We would sometimes like to do more, but of course, we are also a bit restricted. We do pre-select at least 20 companies altogether in both countries. That's 10 per country, which we invite to pitch in front of a jury. And we are currently looking at pitch events being held in March in Kenya and Tanzania. So that is kind of like the first short list of 10 companies per country, and then after the pitch and a bit more due diligence on the companies we do pre-select, we want to invest in at least 5 per country.
Okay. Thank you, Julia. So another question we are getting is, what is the timeline to receive the funding? So there's somebody with a very innovative idea that needs money by January. So yes, what is the timeline before?
Yes, unfortunately, that is, as I just mentioned, we do have to follow a bit of a process. In January 2023, that's basically next month, we will not be able to pay out any funds, especially given that the process includes first the selection that we will do in January, the first round of selections. We will then have the pitch in March. Before the pitch, the companies that do get selected to pitch will be in a process together with Seed Stars to also work on their pitch decks, get prepared for the pitch itself. So this in itself, I think, is a process that can be helpful for the companies, also for future pitches they might have in front of other investors. And we do invite some other investors to these pitch events. So in order to help the companies also gain some other interest in their models. And then after the companies are being selected during the pitch event, we immediately have a short due diligence on the ground. We come to visit each company, have a look at their businesses on the ground. And after this, there's still several weeks that are required to, finalize this due diligence, get all the information needed on the partners we plan to work with, and get a final decision from our investment committee here at DEG. And then we're looking at contracts sometime in May 2023. So yeah, unfortunately, in this particular case, the long rain season that's starting in January that was being referred to will not be. It would not be possible to be funded with our program.
Okay, thank you, Julia. The next one is, what do you expect from the applicants should they receive the grant? You know, this is a grant, so what do you expect from them should they receive the grant? Are there any strings attached, perhaps?
Yeah, I think what is important to say first, it's a grant, so you don't pay it back. I think that's clear. We, of course, have some reporting requirements. We expect to be receiving, the annual financial statements of the year in which we invested in, and then we also have a short report in which companies will report on the impact they are having according to some certain goals of our program and the development target indicators that are linked to it. Yes, and this is basically the type of interaction we'll have with the startups. We try to keep it relatively lean and not overburden the startups by kind of like monthly reports or something like this. I mean, we try to keep this quite simple, but of course there will be certain relationship and also some reporting requirements.
Perhaps just to add to that, so we don't expect the startups to send up a monthly update, but some of the startups already have like investors update on a monthly basis. And then it's very nice for us also to get these updates, but this is of course not mandatory.
Thank you, Lars. That's another question that I get a lot. If this is like, if they're going to be giving up a percentage of their company to get the grant funding, you know, are they paying it back? Anything and such?
No, it's not equity. So your shares remain with you. You don't pay it back. This is what makes it, I think, an attractive product, especially at this very early stage of the company. And also this is the reason why it's highly competitive.
It's neither equity nor, it's neither equity nor a loan, but it is a performance-based grant, meaning that we have a defined period A, and at the very beginning we define common milestones like key performance indicators. And if they are reached, you are eligible for another round, phase B, which is another 100,000. So in that term, it is performance-based to a certain degree, but it is not that you have to pay it back or we expect any stake in the company.
Okay, thank you, Lars. So the other one is, has the list of successful grantees been published already? I assume this is for cohort 3.
Yeah. No, Lukas.
Oh, thanks. We weren't able to publish this yet, which has to do with some regulatory stuff, but we're working on that right now, and we will probably in the future also have publish out the grantees so far, to give you an idea of the sectors and the businesses which we are interested in. So it's coming. Give us some time. We're working on it.
Okay, thank you. So I want to head into the questions that we are getting from the comment section of LinkedIn and YouTube. We're getting quite a number, and some of them we've already answered regarding, you know, the matching funds. Okay, yeah, regarding look at ideation, we've already answered that. Regarding the matching funds as well, we have already answered that. Yeah, Nicholas says that he did not succeed in the previous rounds, but he's hopeful that he shall make it. I think that is the spirit all of us should be having, that you'll be able to better illustrate your company in the subsequent application, and also that your company is at a better place than it was in the past application. So Andreas is asking, what is the reason why you require matching funds? Is it a confidence risk issue? I think we've covered this, but we still should answer him.
Yes, I mean, of course, we are using funds from a German taxpayer, basically. Yeah, this money comes from the developmental ministry here in Germany. And spending these funds on small startups is risky in any case. It would be risky to do this in Europe. It's certainly not less risky to do this in Kenya and Tanzania. And we must ensure that these funds are being used, the best way possible and yielding the greatest return, especially in view of developmental impact. In order to do this, the selection criteria needs to, of course, help us gain most confidence about the startups. And requiring matching funds is one way of finding those startups that have the greatest promise, because not only we, but other investors are believing in them as well. And as you can imagine from the numbers we mentioned, with 500 applications, I think it's necessary to de-risk the decision to some extent, and this is why we insist on. This is the criteria together agreed that we agreed on with the funding ministry, that we insist on the matching funds.
Thank you, Julia. So the next question is, what are the funding amount limits? I got this a lot too. Somebody asking if they can apply for 200,000 euros instead of 100,000 euros. So is there any limit funding?
Yeah, I think Lars just touched on it. We briefly explained. So the first round is always 100,000, not more than that. If startups do show promise and do fulfill the criteria, the target indicators that we together with them stipulate at the beginning of the investment, we are able to invest an additional 100,000 euro as a grant for the so-called phase B. But these are kind of the set terms. Yeah, we can't go much beyond this, or we can't go beyond this, full stop.
Thank you, Julia. So a number of these questions, we've already gone through them, but I guess since they're being asked, we might as well just, give a brief answer. So Thomas, yes, we'll send you the recording of the presentation. The next question is from Rogat. Are former cooperatives eligible? This is about sectors. Are there preferred sectors? Would former cooperatives be eligible?
If you are registered as a legal entity in either Kenya or Tanzania, you're eligible to apply. So any limited liability company is officially able to apply. In terms of sectors, I think we didn't touch on that topic yet. So we are open to all the sectors, but we have certain sectors where we're not able to provide the funds to. So this is something like gambling or alcohol. Those are just on the negative list, which cannot be where we're just not able to provide funds to.
And perhaps just to jump in and answer that, most cooperatives are not privately owned and profit oriented. So in that case, it would be very difficult for them to apply.
Okay, thank you, Lars. So farmer cooperatives, unless you're a profit oriented private business, you cannot be eligible to apply. And then the next one we already touched on as well is, can matching funds be in the form of products or stock on hand?
I think we did answer this question before. Yeah, we can't consider assets, or it has to be fresh money coming in. Of course, in this case, you might have already received money from investors in the previous 6 months in order to be able to buy this stock or product. So if that is the case, if this was, if you received these funds as part of an investment round, we could consider it, but the assets themselves are not considered matching funds.
Thank you, Julia. So we have another question regarding the response they received in the previous application. What are the key indicators of the above? So in the previous application, that was the response. We must make a choice in favor of the most effective investments in terms of developmental impact. We regret to inform you that we cannot pursue your proposal further. What are the key indicators of the above? So what are the key indicators of the most effective investments in terms of developmental impact?
Yes, I mean, as we are sector agnostic, you can imagine it's difficult to compare these sometimes. Some projects, you know, help in saving CO2, others reach, I don't know, reach farmers. So we do have, basically oriented along the SDGs. With regards to, you know, what is the size of the target group? Are there vulnerable target groups that are being addressed? How much energy savings, how much energy production? And we are comparing those startups that are in similar categories amongst each other. You know, and of course there we are looking for those who can reach the most people, can have the most significant impact on the income of the people they are reaching. You also see in the application criteria that we do try to have a focus on companies that are either women-led or that themselves do foster gender equality through their business models to some extent. So if this is a case, if this is the case for your business model, be sure to point this out as well in your application, that you're reaching women, they are your main customers or your main producers or something similarly. I think basically, again, if you orient yourselves along the SDGs and the goals that are trying to be reached there with regards to development, this is our compass as well for this program.
And please be very specific with that. So for us, it's easier to understand what you're doing if you can show us quantifiable numbers. So if we have 5 applications and everybody's stating we will have a general impact, this is quite hard for us to judge. But if you can show us that you really understand the impact in terms of perhaps showing us a calculation in terms of how to quantify the CO2 the business model or the innovation can save, or in terms of how many people you will reach through the investment. This makes it really easy for us to understand and judge the good business models and good applications.
Thank you, Niklas. The next question is specific to the requirement that they must not have acquired more than 2 million euros in funding to date. So does this relate to funding specifically from develoPPP or funding in general? So I guess the question is why? Why this?
Yeah, no, this refers to funding in general. We are providing a grant of 100,000 euro, and we want to provide this grant to companies that fall into a certain bracket that are of course not super small. They do already have some traction, but they should also not be so large and maybe even profitable that they would not require a grant in financing, but that they would require a traditional normal financing instruments like a loan or even other equity. So if a company has already received more than 2 million in funding from other investors, maybe from grants, today we don't see the additionality of our particular funds here, and given that it's taxpayers' money, we would then direct it into other companies. So yeah, if you're that big as a company, let's say, then you're not our target group anymore.
Thank you, Julia. So I'll try skip questions that we've already answered, but there's one here that says, is an organization that just started receiving revenues of roughly $70 per month in recent months eligible? So I guess the question is, how little is too little? Is there a limit, like too little in terms of revenues that the company is receiving?
Yeah, we tried not to specify it and not to give a clear lower limit. Again, it would depend much on, what we can see, the traction you're having. Maybe, you have a strong month-on-month growth. Of course, 70 per month does sound pretty small, I would say. But again, here we don't put a hard lower limit. Show us where you stand with the business model and where you're getting, and there might be still the possibility to consider it.
To add to that, I mean, if you have revenue, I mean, we could also summarize it like that. We focus on companies at pre-seed or seed stage. If you have a monthly revenue of $70, you're usually before pre-seed, and then it will also be very difficult to get the matching funds. So there's no limits from our ends, but we have strict criteria, and matching funds is one of them, and that is a high barrier for a lot of companies, and that should be taken into account.
Okay. Thank you, Les. Another question we're getting is, do non-profits qualify for this grant? The question to that, we already covered it, is no. So it must be a for-profit company for you to qualify for the grant. And are there plans to expand to Rwanda?
Yes, there are plans, but no clear timeline yet. We are planning on bringing the program to other countries, most likely in East Africa for next year, but we haven't yet finalized with the ministry on the countries. Also, maybe we should have noted at some point the program is being run in Ghana as well. So we have Kenya and Tanzania, the two countries we are covering, and Ghana is covered by GIZ with the same program really, just implemented by another implementing agency. And further countries are expected to be added to the portfolio both in East and West Africa, ideally with the next call in June 2023. And we'll let you know on the website which countries they are.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Another question I'm getting is, so are there special favors for those having offices at co-working spaces of Sisters? The answer is no.
No.
No, because first of all, Sisters doesn't have co-working spaces in Kenya also, but the answer is no. You are all invited to apply, provided you meet the minimum set criteria. So I think we have covered most of the questions. The other questions are very repetitive, and we'll keep answering them in the comments, in the comment section of the different platforms. The other one is we haven't made any money yet, but we're in partnership with clients that will help us make money. Would they qualify?
I think I only have one more information on all those who feel that they might not yet fulfill the criteria. The good thing about our program is that we are not a one-off thing, I hope, but we are planning to really have biannual idea competitions in the countries we are already in, and hopefully in even more countries. So if you're not eligible to apply at this point, don't be discouraged. In June, you'll have the next chance, or until the end of June 2023, and then again in December. So yes, then maybe wait until you do have the first revenues or whatever is the missing criteria, and then apply when the time is right.
Thank you, Julia. I think we have covered everything. Every question coming in is just regarding the matching funds and the business stage. So we will share this link, and you can also rewatch to be able to understand, because we have answered every question that is coming in regarding the matching funds or the criteria. What if my matching funds is not 50% equity? So we have touched on all those, and we'll keep answering them in the comment section. The last question we got was, can I get assistance with the application? The answer is yes. There's a phone number provided there. A number of you have already called. So if you're having any challenges regarding accessing the portal or need to further understand, like more than the information that is already provided on the portal, if you need further assistance to understand that, please call or reach out, and we shall be able to help you out with the application or anything else regarding that. So please note that the application closes on 31st of December, but because we don't want you to be caught up with the whole festive season and Christmas, it will be great if you can apply early, at least start the application early. And as you have seen from the demo that I just shared, you'll be able to save your progress and keep applying as you go. So ensure that you start that early enough to be able to comprehensively fill in the application form, and therefore give your company a competitive chance against everyone else. So like you've heard, we received so many applications, and the only way to set yours apart is to actually fill in the required information, give every detail, be able to illustrate your company's innovation, how scalable your company is, even in terms of financial sustainability, are you able to break even within 3 years? Be able to illustrate that. Illustrate your management, because you're also going to take a look at that. Is that adequate? Do your people have, you know, experience even with other startups, running other startups, etc., like proper experience that gives them an advantage to be able to run your business well. Also explain your developmental impact, and last but not least, your likelihood of having the matching funds. So I think, unless we have any other final remarks from the team, Julia?
Yeah, I mean, once again, thanks for your interest in the program. We're looking forward to receiving interesting, innovative applications. And yeah, we wish you much success with first of all going through the application process. That then, of course, maybe being successful in the selection. Maybe we will then meet in person in March in Kenya or Tanzania, and we are very much looking forward to it.
Thank you, Julia. Niklas and Lars, if you have any final closing remarks before we...
Sure, I can just say, if you don't want to watch the entire video again, and if you would like to have a nice overview of the things we just discussed here, I would also recommend you to go to our website, which is develoPPP.de. Once you click on Apply for Develop Ventures, there's a link to a document which is called Conditions of Participation, and there you can find 2 or 3 pages of a summary of what are the eligibility criteria, the funding conditions, and our assessment criteria. And I think that's a very good summary. And if there's any additional questions, Sheila already mentioned that you're mostly welcome to call SeedStars and ask.
Thank you, Lars. Niklas, any final comments? Then we leave.
Final comment. Thank you very much to everybody who tuned in and listened into the perhaps insights we were able to give you. We encourage everybody to apply. We're happy to see the recognition of the program and that so many people are interested. We're really looking forward to reading your innovative ideas. And yes, as Julia already said, hopefully then meet in March in person in either Tanzania or Kenya. Take care.
Thank you so much, Niklas, Lars, and Julia, for setting time for this. And thank you so much to everybody that joined us online, and also those that are going to watch this thereafter. Like Lars said, if you want a summary of this, it's all in the website, the conditions of participation, all the information there. And also when you just go, like when you open the application portal, the first page, you'll see everything, summarizes every qualification, every requirement, everything that you need to know before applying for the grant. So thank you, and we look forward to receiving your applications. Also, all the best to everyone, and bye. Good evening.
Bye-bye.